The bathroom door exploded into Braxton's face with a sickening crack. Blood sprayed across white tiles as his nose shattered on impact through the chaos. One voice cut through his screams like a blade. "Marines don't back down!" Waverly Thompson stood there, legs still extended from the kick. Her usually timid eyes blazing with 6 months of suppressed rage. 4 football players, 1 shy girl, and a secret nobody saw coming. But to understand how a straight-A student ended up drawing blood in a high school bathroom, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to when Waverly Thompson was just another invisible sophomore at Westfield High School in Dallas, Texas. Back to when she still believed in the system. Back to when she thought staying quiet would keep her safe. She was wrong. If you're feeling that rush of what's going to happen next, hit that like button. It really helps more people discover these stories. And if you want to share where you're watching from, drop it in the comments below. For those who want to support more stories like this one, there's a thanks button right under this video. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps me bring you more inspiring tales of courage and standing up for what's right. Thank you for being here. Now, let's see what happens when push comes to shove. The September morning. It all seemed normal enough. Waverly sat in the back corner of her AP chemistry class, notebook open, pen ready. She always chose seats near exits, always kept her head down, always avoided eye contact. At 16, she'd perfected the art of being invisible. Then Braxton Hayes walked in, 6'2", 200 pounds of entitled muscle, JV football team captain, despite being a sophomore, because Daddy donated the new weight room. The kind of guy who wore his Letterman jacket in 90-degree weather just so everyone knew who he was, as if anyone could forget. "Yo, nerd girl," he called out, despite having never spoken to her before. "You're in my seat." Waverly looked around. She'd been sitting here for 3 weeks. Same spot. Every day. This is where I always sit," she said quietly. Braxton's crew laughed behind him. Colton Briggs, Mason Webb, Jackson Pierce, each one a carbon copy of their leader. Rich kids playing tough because they could afford to. "Did I ask for your life story?" Braxton stepped closer. His cologne was overwhelming, expensive, and applied with a fire hose. "Move." The teacher, Mr. Patterson, glanced up from his desk, saw who was involved, went back to his papers. That should have been Waverly's first warning, when teachers pretend not to see. "You're on your own." She gathered her things and moved. What else could she do? Make a scene on week 3. Her mom taught English at the middle school across town. Last thing they needed was drama. Waverly found another seat and tried to forget it happened. But bullies never forget their first taste of power. The next day, Braxton sat in her new seat. The day after that, another one. By Friday, she was standing in the back because he'd claimed every desk she tried. Mr. Patterson said nothing. Nobody said anything. "I think she likes it," Colton whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, following Brax around like a lost puppy. The class snickered. Waverly's cheeks burned. She pressed her back against the wall and took notes standing up, hand shaking slightly as she wrote. This was fine. She could handle this. 3 more years and she'd be gone. College freedom. Just had to stay invisible. Then came the Red Bull incident. October. Waverly had saved for 2 months to buy a refurbished laptop for her coding class. Nothing fancy, but it worked. She was typing up a program during lunch when Braxton appeared. energy drink in hand. "Oops," he said, right before dumping the entire can onto her keyboard. The laptop sparked, died. $500 and 2 months of babysitting jobs dissolving into sticky, caffeinated destruction. Waverly stared at the ruined machine, tears building. "You should be more careful," Braxton said. "These old computers are so fragile." She looked up at him then, really looked, saw the smirk, the calculation. This wasn't an accident. This was a test. He wanted to see if she'd fight back. "That was—" she started. "What?" He leaned in. "That was what, choose your next words very carefully. Nerd." Behind him, Mason and Colton and Jackson formed a wall. The cafeteria was full of students, but Waverly had never felt more alone. She could report this, could make a scene, could fight. Instead, she closed the dead laptop and walked away. "Smart girl," Braxton called after her. "Real smart." Her mom asked about the laptop that night. Waverly lied, said she spilled water on it herself. Her mom sighed, mentioned maybe asking for extra shifts, and Waverly felt something inside her crack just a little. They couldn't afford this, but they really couldn't afford problems with the Hayes family. Everyone knew about the Hayes family. Oil money. Old money. The kind of money that built wings on hospitals and decided who got elected to the school board. Braxton's dad, Mitchell Hayes, practically owned half of Dallas. His donations kept Westfield High's football program alive. His lawyers kept his son out of consequences. The harassment escalated slowly, methodically. Like Braxton had a playbook for destroying someone's life in increments. Week 1 after the laptop accidental shoulder checks in the hallway. Hard enough to send her books flying. Week 2, her locker started jamming. Mysteriously, gum in the lock one day, superglue the next. Week 3, the whispers started. "I heard she smells like cat pee." "My cousin said she got expelled from her last school for stalking a teacher." "Did you see her mom's car held together with duct tape?" Lies, all lies. But lies told often enough start sounding like truth. By November, Waverly had no friends left. Even the other outcasts avoided her, not wanting to catch whatever social disease she'd contracted. She ate lunch in the library, walked the long way between classes to avoid Braxton's usual routes, kept her head down, her grades up, and her mouth shut. Then came the Instagram hack. She didn't even have Instagram. Wasn't allowed. Her mom had strict rules about social media. "Too many predators," she'd say, not realizing the predators were already in the building. But someone created an account in her name, posted photos that made her stomach turn. Her face, badly photoshopped onto bodies doing things that made her want to scrub her skin off. 500 screenshots before her mom even found out. The meeting with Principal Rodriguez was a disaster. "There's no proof Braxton was involved," he said, fingers steepled like he was delivering wisdom instead of cowardice. "No proof." Waverly's mom, usually so calm, was shaking. "His name is watermarked on one of the photos. Anyone could have done that. These kids, they're very clever with technology." "Then check his phone, check his computer." "I'm not violating a student's privacy based on accusations." Rodriguez leaned back. "Perhaps Waverly should consider why she's being targeted. Sometimes, when we don't fit in, we attract negative attention." Waverly watched her mother's face crumble, watched her realize what Waverly had known for months. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed. Protect the powerful, blame the victims, Maintain the status quo. If this continues, her mom said quietly, I'll have to consider legal action. Rodriguez smiled, the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. That's certainly your right, Ms. Thompson. Of course, the Hayes family has an excellent legal team. They don't take kindly to defamation. And teaching positions in this district, well, they can be so hard to come by. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Her mom's job, their income, their survival, all balanced against Waverly's safety. They left without another word. That night, Waverly heard her mom crying through the thin apartment walls, quiet sobs muffled by a pillow, the sound of someone realizing they couldn't protect their child. School became a war zone where Waverly was the only one who knew she was fighting. Every morning was a battle just to walk through the doors. Every class was a minefield of potential humiliation. Every hallway was a gauntlet. The physical escalation started in December, small at first. A foot stuck out to trip her. An elbow to the ribs in a crowded hallway. Always deniable. Always accidental. Then came the rat. Dead. Decomposing. Stuffed into her backpack during PE. She didn't discover it until AP History, when the smell made everyone gag. When she dumped her bag out, screaming, the rat tumbled onto her desk along with her books. Looks like Nerd Girl's bringing her lunch from home, Braxton said from across the room. Everyone laughed. Even the teacher cracked a smile before remembering to look stern. Waverly ran to the bathroom and threw up, stayed there until the janitor, Mr. Chen, knocked on the door. You okay in there, Miss Waverly? She wasn't. Hadn't been for months, but she said yes anyway. Mr. Chen was quiet for a moment, then, you know they installed new cameras last week. Cover every hallway, every corner, even got audio now. Waverly opened the door. The old janitor stood there with his mop bucket, looking at her with knowing eyes. Shame nobody ever checks the footage, though, he continued, unless someone specifically requests it. Files get deleted after 30 days, if nobody asks. He walked away, leaving Waverly with the first piece of hope she'd had in months. Evidence, proof. Maybe things could change. But first, they got worse. January brought Braxton's father to school. Mitchell Hayes arrived in a Mercedes that cost more than most teachers made in 5 years. He was giving a presentation about entrepreneurship to the business class. Waverly wasn't even in that class, but somehow she got called to attend. She sat in the back, invisible as always, until Mitchell Hayes pointed her out. You, he said. Laser pointer aimed at her like a weapon. Stand up. She did, legs shaking. This is Waverly Thompson, he announced to the room. She's been tutoring my son, helping him with his grades. Waverly's stomach dropped. She'd never tutored Braxton, never even spoken to him outside of his harassment. Now, I want you all to look at Miss Thompson, Mitchell continued. Look at how she presents herself, the posture, the clothing, the general demeanor. Snickers rippled through the room. Waverly wanted to sink into the floor. This, Mitchell said, is what happens when you don't invest in yourself, when you don't understand that image is everything. Miss Thompson might be book smart, but she'll never succeed in the real world looking like that. He said that like it tasted bad, like her existence was offensive to his sensibilities. Success isn't just about grades, he continued, finally moving his attention away from her. It's about presence, power, the ability to command a room, things that can't be taught by someone who shops at Goodwill. The lecture went on for another 40 minutes. 40 minutes of Waverly standing there, face burning, while Mitchell Hayes used her as an example of everything not to be. When it finally ended, when she could finally escape, she heard him say to Principal Rodriguez, "That's the best you could find to tutor my son. No wonder his grades aren't improving." "We'll find someone more suitable," Rodriguez assured him. Waverly ran down the hall, past the new cameras Mr. Chen had mentioned, into the furthest bathroom. She locked herself in a stall and pulled out her phone, scrolled to her photos, found the one she always kept hidden, her and Grandpa Thompson at the beach. She was 8. He was teaching her to throw a proper punch. "Not for starting fights," he'd said. "For ending them, Grandpa." The one person who'd ever made her feel strong. But he lived in Houston now, 3 hours away. Might as well be on the moon for how often she saw him. Her phone screen blurred. She wiped her eyes and opened the medicine cabinet app she used to track her mom's prescriptions, counted pills, did math. How many would it take? How many would make this stop? Her finger hovered over the calculator. Then Grandpa's face caught her eye again. That crooked smile. The Marine Corps tattoo on his forearm. The way he'd held her after Dad left. "Thompson women don't quit," he'd said. "We endure. We survive. We overcome." She closed the app, dialed his number instead. "Waverly?" His voice was gravel and warmth. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" And for the first time in 6 months, she told someone everything. The harassment, the threats, the Instagram posts, the rat, the lecture. All of it poured out between sobs. Grandpa listened, didn't interrupt. When she finished, when she was empty of words and full of tears, he spoke. "I'm driving down tomorrow." "Grandpa, no, it's a school day. You don't have to." "Tomorrow," he repeated. "And Waverly, pack your gym clothes. We're going to remember some things you've forgotten." She didn't understand. Not then, but something in his voice made her sit up straighter, made her wash her face and walk out of that bathroom with her head up for the first time in months. The next day, Grandpa arrived at 3 a.m., let himself in with his spare key. When Waverly woke up, he was making breakfast, real breakfast. Eggs and bacon and potatoes. Warrior food, he called it. "Eat up," he said. "Long day ahead." Her mom had already left for work, early shift. Grandpa had timed it perfectly. They spent the morning in the apartment complex's empty gym. Grandpa in his old Marines t-shirt, Waverly in sweats. He started simple. Stance, balance, breathing. "You've been holding your breath for 6 months, he said, waiting for the next hit. "That stops now." He taught her to stand. Really stand. Root herself to the ground like an oak tree. Then he taught her to move, not to attack, to redirect. "Bullies are lazy," he explained. "They expect you to be a wall they can hit. Be a door instead. Let them charge through." They practiced with the gym door, over and over, timing, positioning, using the door's weight as a weapon without ever throwing a punch. "This isn't violence," he said as she successfully sent him stumbling for the 5th time. "This is physics. This is survival." By noon, she was sweating and sore and felt more alive than she had in months. But Grandpa wasn't done. "Now," he said, pulling out his laptop, "let's talk about the real weapon. Information." He showed her articles she'd never seen. Mitchell Hayes' oil company under federal investigation. Embezzlement charges brewing. The Hayes empire built on sand and held together with bribes. Bullies project strength because they're terrified of showing weakness. Grandpa explained. Braxton isn't targeting you because you're weak. He's targeting you because you're everything he's not. Smart, honest, earned your place instead of buying it. Waverly stared at the screen, at the federal case numbers, the investigation timeline. His dad's going down, she said quietly. Within the year. Grandpa confirmed. Maybe sooner. Question is, are you going to let the son destroy you before the father destroys himself? They trained for 3 more hours, not just physical moves, mental preparation, emotional fortification. By the time Grandpa left that evening, Waverly felt like a different person. Or maybe like the person she'd always been. Just forgotten. Remember, he said, hugging her goodbye. You're not looking for a fight. But when they bring one to you, be the door. She finished. He smiled, kissed her forehead. That's my Marine. Waverly returned to school the next day different. Same clothes, same backpack, same classes. But her walk had changed, her posture, the way she occupied space instead of apologizing for it. People noticed. Look who grew a spine, Colton muttered as she passed. She didn't respond. Didn't need to. Just kept walking. Head up, shoulders back. The cameras Mr. Chen mentioned seemed more visible now, little electronic witnesses in every corner. In chemistry, Braxton was in her seat again, the usual game. But instead of finding another spot, Waverly stood at his desk. You're in my seat, she said. Not loud, not aggressive, just factual. The room went silent. Everyone turned to watch. Braxton laughed. Your seat, nerd! I own every seat in this school. No, Waverly said. Your daddy owns them for now. Something flickered in Braxton's eyes. Fear. Anger. He stood up, used his height advantage. You got something to say? I said, you're in my seat. They stood there, frozen in time, the apex predator and the prey who'd suddenly remembered she had teeth. Everyone waited to see who would blink first. The bell rang, shattering the standoff. Braxton grabbed his bag, shoulder-checking Waverly as he passed. Hard enough to hurt, not hard enough to send her fleeing like before. This isn't over, he hissed. No, she agreed. It's not. Word spread through Westfield High like wildfire. Waverly Thompson had talked back to Braxton Hayes. The sheep had bared teeth at the wolf. By lunch, the whole school was buzzing. $20 says he destroys her by Friday, Mason said, counting bills in the cafeteria. I give her till tomorrow, Jackson added. They were taking bets on her destruction. Waverly heard them from 2 tables over, eating her sandwich alone as always. But something had shifted. The fear that usually sat in her stomach like a stone had transformed into something else. Determination. Her phone buzzed. Grandpa, checking in. Remember what we practiced. His text read. And remember, doors swing both ways. She smiled, actually smiled. First time in months at school. That's when Braxton appeared, sliding into the seat across from her. The cafeteria noise dropped to whispers. 200 students pretending not to stare, while absolutely staring. Funny thing happened in chemistry, he said, voice casual but eyes cold. You seemed confused about how things work here. Waverly took another bite of her sandwich, chewed slowly, swallowed. The old her would have been scrambling for words, for apologies, for escape routes. New her just waited. See, you're going to do my English paper, Braxton continued. 8 pages on The Great Gatsby. Due Monday. No. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Braxton's face darkened. What did you say? I said no. Louder this time, clear enough for nearby tables to hear. I don't think you understand. I understand perfectly. Waverly stood up, her voice carrying now. You want me to do your homework because you're too lazy or too stupid to do it yourself? The answer is no. Gasps rippled through the cafeteria. Someone's phone was already out. Recording. Good, Waverly thought. Let them record. Braxton stood too, towering over her. You're making a big mistake. Nerd. The only mistake I made was letting you push me around for 6 months. She picked up her tray. Hands steady. Write your own paper. Braxton. Or better yet, have Daddy hire someone. Oh, wait. She pretended to think. He might be too busy with those federal investigators. She'd gone too far. Knew it the second the words left her mouth. Braxton's face went from red to purple, his fist clenched. For a moment, she thought he'd hit her right there. 200 witnesses, and he was still considering it. Friday, he said finally, voice low and dangerous. After school, you're going to pay for that. Waverly walked away, tray in hand, back straight, behind her. The cafeteria exploded in noise. The video was already uploading, already spreading. By final period, everyone had seen it. Waverly Thompson versus Braxton Hayes. David versus Goliath. If David wore thrift store jeans and Goliath had a trust fund. Her mom heard about it before Waverly even got home. What were you thinking? She was pacing the small apartment, still in her teaching clothes. The Hayes family is under federal investigation. Waverly finished. Grandpa told me. Embezzlement. Fraud. They're going down, Mom. Her mother stopped pacing, sat down hard on their second-hand couch. That doesn't matter if Braxton hurts you first. He's been hurting me for months. I mean, really hurts you. Waverly. Physical violence. These boys, she rubbed her face. I've seen what they do to girls who embarrass them. Waverly sat next to her mom, took her hands. I can't keep living like this. I can't keep letting him win. What if you get expelled? What if I don't? Waverly squeezed her mother's hands. What if I finally fight back and things actually change? They sat there in silence, 2 Thompson women trying to be strong in a world that preferred them weak. Finally, her mom spoke. Your grandfather called me, told me about your training. Waverly waited. He said you're ready, said you know what to do. Her mom pulled her into a hug. Just be careful, please. I will. But careful wasn't in Braxton's vocabulary. Thursday was psychological warfare. Everywhere Waverly went. She heard whispers, saw the looks. Braxton's crew had spread the word. Friday, after school, something big was going down. I heard he's bringing his brother, someone whispered in biology. Nah, heard he's got something worse planned. Another replied. The rumors multiplied like bacteria, each version worse than the last. By Thursday night, Waverly could barely sleep. She kept running through Grandpa's training. Stance, balance, breathing. Be the door. Friday morning came too fast and too slow. Waverly dressed carefully. Jeans that allowed movement. Sneakers with good grip. Hair tied back tight. She looked in the mirror and saw someone new staring back. Not a victim. Not anymore. School was electric with anticipation. Teachers noticed the energy but couldn't place it. Students moved in packs. whispering, planning, choosing sides. The smart ones sided with history. Braxton had never lost. Why would today be different? During lunch, Vice Principal Galveston pulled Waverly aside. "I've heard concerning rumors," she said, voice professionally neutral, "about some sort of confrontation planned for after school." Waverly said nothing. Rule number 1, never give them ammunition. If you're feeling threatened, we can arrange for you to leave early, perhaps take a few days off until things cool down. Translation: run away, let Braxton win. Maintain the status quo. "I have a history test last period," Waverly said. "I can't miss it." Galveston frowned. "Your safety is more important than a test." "Is it?" Waverly met her eyes. "Was my safety important when someone put a dead rat in my bag? When they hacked my Instagram? When Mitchell Hayes humiliated me in front of 40 students?" The vice principal's face tightened. "Those are serious accusations that require proof. Check the cameras," Waverly interrupted. "The new ones, with audio. Mr. Chen said they record everything." Galveston's expression shifted. Waverly walked away before she could respond. The day crawled by, each period a countdown, each bell a reminder. By 7th period, history. Waverly could barely concentrate on her test, but she finished it, turned it in, packed her bag slowly as the final bell rang. The hallways emptied faster than usual. Word had spread. Anyone not involved had fled. Waverly walked to her locker, changed into her gym shoes, the ones with the best grip, checked her phone. Message from Grandpa. "Remember, you're not there to fight. You're there to survive." She put her phone away and headed to the agreed-upon location. The old bathroom by the gym. The one with no windows and only one exit. Perfect for cornering someone. Braxton thought he was so clever. As she walked, Waverly noticed the cameras, every 20 feet. Little black domes capturing everything. Mr. Chen had mentioned they had audio now. Good. Let them record what was about to happen. The bathroom door was already open. Inviting. A trap pretending to be a choice. Waverly walked in. They were waiting. All 4 of them. Braxton in the center. His crew spread out to block any escape. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows on their faces. "Knew you'd show," Braxton said, too proud to run. Waverly let the door close behind her, noted the position, the weight, the hinges. Everything Grandpa had taught her. "Not proud," she said, "just tired." "Yeah," Colton laughed. "You're about to be exhausted." They moved closer, tightening the circle. Waverly shifted her stance. Subtle. Feet shoulder-width apart. Weight balanced. Back to the door. "You embarrassed me," Braxton said, pulling something from his pocket. A knife. Small, but sharp. "Made me look weak in front of everyone." "You did that yourself," Waverly replied. Eyes on the blade, but peripheral vision tracking all 4 of them. "No." He stepped closer. "You did it. And now you're going to fix it. You're going to get on your knees and apologize. Beg me to forgive you. And then—" He traced the knife through the air. "We're going to leave you with something to remember us by. Maybe carve snitch across your face. Maybe something worse." Waverly's heart hammered, but her breathing stayed steady. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Just like Grandpa taught. "I said get on your knees," Braxton shouted. "No." The word echoed off the tile walls. Braxton's face contorted with rage. He lunged forward, knife leading. Time slowed. Waverly pivoted, using his momentum against him. Her hand found the door handle, pulled hard. The heavy wooden door swung open just as Braxton reached her. Crack! The door met his face with devastating force. The sound was wet and terrible, bone and cartilage giving way. Blood exploded from his nose like a crimson fountain. The knife clattered across the floor as Braxton screamed, hands flying to his destroyed face. But Waverly wasn't done. Colton charged next. Fist cocked back. She swung the door closed, then immediately back open. His forward momentum met the returning door perfectly. His jaw snapped sideways with an audible pop. He dropped like a sack of potatoes, unconscious before he hit the tile. Mason and Jackson stood frozen, watching their leaders bleed and moan on the bathroom floor. The script had flipped. The hunters had become the hunted. "Marines don't back down," Waverly said, voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. Mason stepped backward, hands up. "We're good. We're cool. We didn't—" "You watched," Waverly interrupted. "For 6 months. You watched him torture me, laughed about it, took bets on when I'd break." Jackson was already at the door, fumbling with the handle. "Let us go, please." "We won't tell anyone," Waverly laughed. But there was no humor in it. "Tell everyone. Tell them exactly what happened here. Tell them Waverly Thompson isn't a victim anymore." They ran, practically fell over each other getting out. Their footsteps echoed down the empty hallway, growing fainter until silence returned. Waverly looked down at Braxton, still writhing on the floor, blood pooling beneath his face. Then at Colton, unconscious but breathing. Part of her wanted to feel bad, wanted to help. That part was very small and getting smaller. Instead, she stepped over them carefully, avoiding the blood, walked to the sink, washed her hands thoroughly, checked her reflection. Not a mark on her, not a hair out of place. The bathroom door burst open. Security guards rushed in, followed by Vice Principal Galveston. They stopped short at the scene. 2 football players down, blood everywhere, and Waverly Thompson calmly drying her hands with paper towels. "What happened here?" Galveston demanded. Waverly pointed to the cameras. "Check the footage, audio included. I think you'll find it very educational." The next hour was a blur. Paramedics, police, Braxton's parents arriving in separate Mercedes, his mother shrieking about lawyers while his father made phone calls. Waverly sat in the principal's office, calm as a lake while chaos swirled around her. They reviewed the footage, all of it, the ambush, the knife, the threats. Braxton's lunge, the perfect self-defense. Even the audio was crystal clear. "Get on your knees and beg," Braxton's recorded voice said. "We're going to carve snitch across your face." The police officer taking notes looked sick. Principal Rodriguez looked worse. The Hayes family lawyer, who'd arrived within minutes, looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. "Clear case of self-defense," the officer said finally. 4 against 1, weapon involved, death threats on audio. The girl had every right to defend herself. "She broke my son's nose," Mrs. Hayes screeched. "Your son brought a knife to school and threatened to disfigure a student." The officer replied, "He's lucky a broken nose is all he got." But the real fireworks came that night, while Waverly was giving her official statement, while Braxton was getting his nose reset at the hospital. Federal agents were raiding the Hayes mansion. The timing wasn't coincidental. Someone had made a call, mentioned that Mitchell Hayes' son had brought a weapon to school. suggested they check the home office while they were arresting the kid. They found everything: financial records, offshore accounts, evidence that had been lost from the company headquarters. Mitchell Hayes had gotten sloppy, keeping backup files at home. The FBI had been building a case for months. Braxton's arrest was just the excuse they needed for the raid. By morning, it was front-page news. Oil executive arrested in federal raid. High school bully expelled after knife threat. Hayes family empire crumbles. Waverly watched the news with her mom and grandpa, who'd driven down the moment he heard. They sat on their second-hand couch, eating breakfast, watching the Hayes family do their perp walk on live television. "You did that," her mom said quietly. "No," Waverly corrected. "They did that. I just stopped being their victim." Monday at school was surreal. Waverly walked through the front doors to find the hallways parted like the Red Sea. Students stepped aside, some nodding respect, others whispering in awe. The girl who'd survived Braxton Hayes. The girl who'd fought back and won in chemistry. Her seat was empty, waiting. She sat down, and nobody said a word. At lunch, 3 freshman girls approached her table nervously. "We wanted to say thank you," one said. "Braxton's crew has been terrorizing us all year. Now, they're gone." "Not gone," Waverly corrected. "Just defanged. There will be others. There always are." "So what do we do?" Waverly thought about it. About 6 months of hell. About the silence that enabled it. About the system that protected bullies until they couldn't anymore. "You stand up," she said finally. "You speak out. You record everything. And when they come for you," she smiled, "you be the door." The girls looked confused but grateful. They'd learn. Over the following weeks, more stories emerged. 57 students came forward with complaints about Braxton and his crew. Stories of harassment, assault, extortion, things that had been happening for years. Things everyone knew, but nobody stopped. The school board held emergency meetings. Policies changed. The cameras that had saved Waverly became standard in every hallway. Zero tolerance actually started, meaning zero tolerance. And Waverly, she became something she'd never wanted to be. A symbol. A story. The shy girl who'd had enough. Colleges started reaching out. Scholarship offers. Speaking engagements. Organizations wanting her to share her story. To inspire other victims to fight back. 6 months later, she stood on a stage in Houston, looking out at an auditorium full of teenagers. Her hands didn't shake anymore. Her voice didn't waver. "They want you to believe you're weak," she said into the microphone. "That you're alone. That fighting back will only make it worse." "They're wrong." In the front row, Grandpa Thompson sat in his dress blues, medals gleaming. He winked at her. Proud. So proud. "The system isn't designed to protect you," Waverly continued. "It's designed to protect itself, to maintain order, to keep the powerful in power. But here's what they don't want you to know." She paused, making eye contact with a girl in the 3rd row who looked exactly like she had a year ago. Scared, defeated, alone. "You're not powerless. You're not alone. And sometimes," she smiled, "sometimes all it takes is one person standing up to change everything. One person refusing to be a victim. One person being the door instead of the wall." The applause was thunderous. Standing ovation. But Waverly's eyes stayed on that girl in the 3rd row, who was crying now but also nodding, understanding, Planning. After the speech, dozens of students approached her, each with their own story, their own Braxton, their own battle. She listened to every one, offered advice, hope, proof that survival was possible. "What happened to them?" one boy asked. "Braxton and his crew." "Braxton got 18 months in juvenile detention for the knife," Waverly said. "Colton needed jaw surgery. Mason and Jackson transferred schools. The Hayes family lost everything in the federal case, last I heard. They were living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Arkansas." "Do you feel bad for them?" Waverly considered the question, thought about 6 months of torture, about the knife, about what could have happened if she hadn't fought back. "No," she said honestly. "I feel bad for their victims, for everyone they hurt before me, for everyone they would have hurt after. But them, they made their choices." That night, back in her hotel room, Waverly video called her mom. "Grandpa says you did 3 more interviews today," her mom said. "Don't burn yourself out." "I won't," Waverly promised. "But Mom, you should see these kids. They're so hungry for hope. For someone to tell them, it gets better. Does it get better?" Waverly thought about it. She still had nightmares sometimes, still flinched at unexpected noises, still checked corners before entering rooms. "Different," she said finally. "It gets different. And different can be better if you let it." They talked for another hour, about college applications, about the book deal she'd been offered, about the nonprofit she wanted to start. Thompson's Door. She was thinking of calling it. A resource for bullied students, legal help, self-defense training, counseling. After hanging up, Waverly sat by the window, looking out at the Houston skyline. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You ruined my life," the text read. No signature needed. She recognized Braxton's entitlement even in text form. She started to delete it, then stopped. Screenshot it instead. Added it to the file her lawyer was building. Harassment from detention was still harassment. "No," she typed back. "You ruined your own life. I just stopped letting you ruin mine." She blocked the number, went back to her laptop, opened the document she'd been working on. Her story. The real one. Not the viral video version or the news summary. The whole truth. Chapter 1 started with a question. What do you do when the system designed to protect you becomes your biggest threat? She typed late into the night, remembering every detail, every moment, every choice that led to that bathroom, every lesson learned in blood and tears, and finally, triumph, outside. Houston slept, but somewhere, in apartments and houses across the country, kids like her were awake, scared, desperate, looking for hope. She was writing for them, fighting for them, being the door for them. Because Thompson women don't quit. They endure. They survive. They overcome. And sometimes, when pushed hard enough, they fight back.